There's a white powder that costs $2 at any hardware store. IT has been sitting on that shelf for decades, and it cleans engine sludge, oil deposits, and carbon buildup better than a $200 professional service, not according to some internet forum. According to engineers who documented it in the 1940s and military mechanics who relied on it through two wars, no special tools. No drain required for the first stage, no appointment booked 3 weeks out. You add 2 tablespoons to your oil, drive normally for a week. The deposits that have been strangling your engine for years start breaking apart. That is it. The average American spends over $400 a year on engine maintenance. Oil changes, flushes, treatments, additives. A $60 billion automotive service industry is built on keeping that number exactly where it is. A $2 powder that extends your engine's clean running life cannot be allowed to spread. Not because it fails, because it works. This is the story of diatomite, the fossilized earth that German engineers used on military engines in World War II. The same compound that independent mechanics rediscovered decades later and quietly use today. And the reason you have never once heard its name in any oil change shop, any car manual, or any mainstream automotive publication in your life. Welcome to the Blueprint Secrets. This is where we dig up what the industry stopped talking about. Subscribe and hit the bell. Every vault we open, they would prefer stayed shut. Let me take you back to 1943, Northern Africa. German armored divisions are pushing their vehicles past every rated limit. Engines running in desert heat, clogged with sand, starved of clean oil between supply lines that stretched hundreds of miles. Standard maintenance schedules were impossible. Replacement parts did not arrive. Engines had to keep running or the mission failed. Military engineers attached to the Africa Corps begin experimenting with diatomaceous earth, a fine white powder mined from ancient fossilized algae deposits as an emergency engine treatment. They mix small quantities into engine oil. What they observe is documented in Wehrmacht maintenance records captured after the war. Carbon deposits on cylinder walls begin detaching. Oil flow improves. Engines that should have seized continue operating, not because the powder adds anything, because it physically polishes the internal surfaces as it circulates, stripping the accumulated buildup that oil alone cannot remove. The same principle had been understood in industrial machinery since the early 1900s. Factory engineers used diatomite to clean the internal surfaces of hydraulic systems and large mechanical presses without full disassembly. The individual diatom particles, each one the fossilized shell of a microscopic algae, are hard enough to abrade deposits, but soft enough to leave metal surfaces undamaged at the microscopic level. It is mechanical cleaning at a scale invisible to the naked eye, happening continuously as the oil circulates. After the war, American and British engineers studying captured German technical documents note the engine treatment findings. Some independent mechanics begin experimenting with the technique on civilian vehicles through the 1950s and 1960s. Results are consistent. Engines with heavy carbon buildup and sludge deposits show measurable improvement in oil pressure and compression after diatomite treatment. The knowledge spreads slowly through the community of independent mechanics who share information outside the official service manual system. And then the automotive aftermarket chemical industry arrives, packaged its own proprietary engine flush products at $30 to $60 per treatment, and the $2 powder quietly disappears from the conversation entirely. Here is why this powder does what a $30 chemical flush cannot replicate. Diatomaceous earth is made entirely from the fossilized shells of diatom single-celled algae that build intricate silica skeletons around themselves as they live. When they die, those skeletons sink to the bottom of lakes and oceans and accumulate in layers over millions of years. What you buy in the bag is those compressed fossilized shells, ground into a fine powder. Under a microscope, each particle looks like a miniature crystalline structure with sharp, precise edges. Those edges are the mechanism. When food-grade or filter-grade diatomite is mixed into engine oil at the correct ratio, the particles circulate through the entire oil system alongside the oil itself. Everywhere the oil goes, the particles go, and everywhere they contact a surface coated with carbon deposits, varnish, or sludge, they physically abrade that coating at the microscopic level. The deposit breaks away from the metal surface and gets carried out with the oil when you drain it. Chemical engine flushes work differently. They use solvent compounds to dissolve deposits chemically. The problem is that aggressive solvents also attack gasket materials, seals, and the protective film that keeps metal surfaces from direct contact. Multiple independent mechanics have documented gasket failures and seal deterioration following aggressive chemical flush treatments on older high-mileage engines. The chemical does not distinguish between the deposit it is targeting and the rubber seal sitting next to it. Diatomite does not dissolve anything. It abrades mechanically. It does not interact with rubber seals or gasket compounds. It does not change the oil's chemical properties. And critically, the particles themselves are so small, typically 2 to 10 microns in diameter, that they pass freely through oil filters without clogging them, meaning the filter catches the loosened deposits while the diatomite particles continue circulating until the oil is drained. A 2016 paper published in the journal Tribology International tested microparticle silica additives, the same basic mechanism as diatomite in engine oil, against standard oil across 50 hours of engine operation. The silica additive group showed 23% lower cylinder wall wear rate and significantly reduced carbon deposit accumulation compared to the standard oil group. The particles clean as they protect. If you made it this far, you already know more about engine cleaning than most people handing over $200 at a service counter today. Subscribe and share this with someone paying for what a $2 powder handles. The link is in the description. Stay here, because this next part is where it gets uncomfortable. The global automotive aftermarket industry generates over $60 billion a year. Engine flush products, oil additives, fuel system cleaners, injector treatments. Every major brand, Liquimoly, Bardol, STP, Lucas, sells a version of the same thing. A proprietary chemical blend in a branded bottle at $30 to $60 per treatment. Recommended every oil change or every 15,000 miles. That is 2 to 4 purchases per year, every year, for the life of every vehicle every customer owns. A bag of food-grade diatomite large enough for dozens of engine treatments costs $3. You cannot build a $60 billion industry on $3. So the industry did not ban diatomite from engine use. They simply never mentioned it. Service manuals specify approved products. Training programs teach technicians to recommend branded additives. Counterstaff at quick lube shops are incentivized to upsell bottled treatments. None of that system has any mechanism to recommend something that costs $2 and comes in an unlabeled bag. I want to be honest here. Diatomite is not appropriate for every engine. For engines with very worn seals or extremely degraded gaskets, any cleaning treatment carries risk the deposits that have built up may actually be helping those worn seals hold. On a well-maintained engine, or one with moderate sludge buildup, the documented results are consistent. On a severely neglected engine, consult a mechanic before any treatment. The powder is not magic. It is mechanical chemistry, and it works best when used correctly. The knowledge never fully disappeared. It survived in the places the aftermarket industry could not reach. Independent mechanics working outside the dealership and franchise system have quietly maintained diatomite treatment as a tool for high-mileage engine restoration for decades. Forums dedicated to classic car restoration and vintage motorcycle maintenance document diatomite use extensively. The consistent finding across hundreds of documented cases is the same. Oil that comes out dark and thick after a diatomite treatment carries significantly more suspended deposit material than oil drained after a standard change without treatment. The powder is loosening what the oil alone was leaving behind. A mechanic in rural Tennessee documented treating a 1998 pickup truck with 220,000 miles on the clock with food-grade diatomite mixed into the existing oil for 1 week before an oil change. He photographed the drained oil alongside oil from a standard change on the same vehicle 6 months prior. The diatomite treatment oil was visibly darker and carried a heavier sediment load. Post-treatment compression test results showed improvement across 3 of 4 cylinders. He posted the full documentation online. The thread has been referenced in classic car forums ever since. A motorcycle restoration specialist in Oregon has documented diatomite treatment on over 40 vintage engines across 12 years of restoration work. His documented observation is consistent with the German wartime findings 7 decades earlier. Engines with moderate carbon buildup and varnish deposits show measurable improvement in oil pressure readings and smoother idle after a single treatment cycle. He uses food-grade diatomite at a ratio of 1 teaspoon per quart of oil, circulated for 500 to 1,000 miles before an oil change. Agricultural equipment communities, farmers running tractors and machinery that cannot be taken to a dealership for a flush, have maintained practical knowledge of diatomite and similar fine particle treatments as field maintenance tools. The knowledge lives in the places where people fix things themselves because no one is coming to fix it for them. Here is exactly how to do this. Read every step before you start. Buy food-grade diatomaceous earth only. This is critical. Pool-grade diatomite is chemically treated and not safe for engine use. Food-grade is the only type documented for internal engine application. It is sold in garden supply stores, health food stores, and online. A 1 kilogram bag costs $2 to $4 and contains enough material for dozens of treatments. Look for the words food grade on the label. Check your engine first. Look at your oil. Pull the dipstick. If the oil is black and thick and your vehicle has more than 75,000 miles without a recent flush, this treatment is relevant for you. If your oil is brown and relatively clean, your maintenance has been consistent and the benefit will be smaller. If your engine has known seal problems or is actively burning oil, do not proceed without mechanic consultation. Add 1 teaspoon of food-grade diatomite per quart of oil currently in your engine. For a 4-quart engine, add 4 teaspoons. Do not exceed this ratio. More is not better. The particles need to circulate freely in the oil. Too high a concentration reduces the effect and unnecessarily loads the oil filter. Add the powder through the oil fill cap. It dissolves into suspension immediately on contact with warm oil. Drive normally for 500 to 1,000 miles. Do not extend beyond 1,000 miles with the diatomite present. The particles are collecting loosened deposit material as they circulate, and the oil becomes progressively more loaded. Change your oil and filter at the end of this period. Use a quality filter. The loosened deposits need to be caught effectively. Inspect the drained oil. If it carries heavier sediment than usual, the treatment worked. Total cost, including the oil change. The cost of your regular oil change plus $2 for the diatomite. Total time, 1 week of normal driving. No service appointment, no flush machine, no proprietary chemical blend at $40 a bottle. Here's what stays with me about this story. The German engineers who figured this out in 1943 were not trying to disrupt an industry. They were trying to keep engines running when nothing else was available. They used what the earth provided because the alternative was a stopped vehicle in the middle of a desert war. The knowledge they documented was practical, proven, and free, and it worked well enough that captured records of it caught the attention of engineers on the other side of the conflict. That knowledge did not die. It moved into the hands of independent mechanics who valued results over brand loyalty. It moved into restoration communities where the goal is always to fix the thing, not to replace it. It moved into farming communities where there is no dealership within 50 miles and every machine has to keep working. The $60 billion aftermarket industry never suppressed that knowledge actively. They did not need to. They simply built a system where their products were the only ones that received shelf space, service manual endorsement, and technician training. In that system, a $2 unlabeled bag of powder never had a pathway to the consumer. Not because it failed, because it had no marketing budget and no profit margin worth protecting. Your engine is running right now with deposits that have been building for years. Not because there was no solution, because the solution that worked was the one that cost $2 and nobody was paid to tell you about it. The powder is still on the shelf. Garden supply section, food grade label, $2. It was always there. If this opens something for you, subscribe and share it forward. Every share keeps this knowledge moving through the people the industry hoped would never find it. The next field opens soon, and what is forgotten inside it is heavier than what you just uncovered here.